Hello, everyone. I hope you guys are still awake for my session after a big lunch. Well, my talk is about Indonesia's QA market at the AI Inflection Point. But before that, this is something that is actually I found by accident. It is true I'm going to talk about it, but I also want to share what I have learned, my experience to, with this AI being recognized as supposedly QA partner in now everyday things that we're going to be doing in the future. So, well, I have spent about 14 years building QA teams and QA systems. However, like what Dr. Stewart in his previous talk mentioned, which is I was so surprised. I didn't read your expert or summary of your presentation, but I was so surprised about the talk. And I was like, wow, this is something that is already started happening, not in the future, but it's already here. Because in less than 1 year, I did build a system that replaced my own role as a QA. And this is what I want to share with you all in this room. So you guys, you can see and learn from this experience why it matters, why we need to start talk about it, and how can we take action so that it's not going to happen to you all. And I was wondering, actually, I'm going to ask again these questions. How many of you guys are actually QA? Like how many in the room? Okay, now I get more than 5 people. That's an improvement. And how many of you guys are using AI in your everyday work? Oh, pretty much the people who raised hand previously is also people who's actually using the AI, right? Okay, so let's see what I learned. Before that, let me introduce myself. In Indonesia, we have a saying that if you don't know a person, you will not like this person. So let me introduce myself a little bit. So I came from a journey long back in 2012 in the US. So I started my QA engineer work for Walter Schooler. It's health tech in the US. And then I came back to Indonesia and start working also on other projects, health tech and telco projects. And then after that, like what in the diagram, the pyramid diagram, I started working my way up, go towards QA lead, become a head of QA, and one day I also become a principal engineer. Now, this is the past. So, in the meantime, I also built another QA community, which actually what helped me quite a lot. And then founded the Indonesia's software testing board, as well as SquadUp. So, now that you know me, and then my beautiful countries of Indonesia, I wonder how many people here have been to Indonesia? Maybe you know Bali? Bali is actually part of Indonesia. So yeah, Indonesia sitting is right there. It's like around Singapore and then above Australia. Okay, so the story behind it. I was working as a consultant as a QA engineer in one of the Japanese company, as a SaaS company. It's working in the restaurant technology domain. Now, from 2022 to 2024, everything was fine, built QA process, doing the manual test automation, from Cypress to Playwright. How many of you guys are using Cypress or Playwright in the room? Anyone? Oh, okay. And then, well, the work was fine. It was effective because we do, more efficiently with automation, as we know, right? Now, AI start coming in. In early 2025, I was asked to do AI in QA. So what is AI in QA? I will explain that in my next slide. So then I built the next layer. AI-assisted automation. Code was there for test planning. There's also, if you don't know this, there's Claude extension where you can actually integrate Jira, in which most countries using Jira for their day-to-day task. And then that one is part of their documentation as well. Now, mid-2025, the system worked well. Now, the development, they started to run their own automation. They built their own automation. Now, they do have their automation testing, their component testing. But the companies start seeing that differently. So they do have their component testing. Development starts seeing that, oh, maybe, just maybe, they can start also do automation testing for QA. So documentation was automated. The QA role I was doing was no longer needed. That's already in mid-2025. Now, in late 2025, the company asked me to do front-end engineering work. So then that's where I, realized something, oh, this is not good. The QA team was quietly reduced, significantly reduced. I had built a system that made my own role unnecessary. So, what AI integrated QA look like in practice? Now, this is also generated by ChatGPT. Very cool. Comics. Not so cool in reality. So as you can see, prompt engineer test cases generation, like Claude or ChatGPT, can create Jira tickets now. Can create acceptance criteria. Those things together, combined, they can create automation testing. So Playwright test scaffolds is there. So when everything is automated, automated documentation pipeline is there, your sprint summaries, your release notes, regression report, everything now is generated. You don't write it anymore. Now, the threshold moment here is that when you realize that non-QA people can actually start doing your work, can read the output, make the decision based on it. This is something like, even in the picture, the QA professional here, as you can see, is there. Well, apparently it's taking vacation. I hope that it's actually vacation, not something vacation because it's being let go. Now, in today's sessions, we're gonna see a lot of things that will answer how do we use AI tools in QA work. But I hope that this session goes even further to ask one level deeper, what is the role of QA when AI can do most of our work? So I found these questions like from my own experience. I didn't make up for this. AI didn't make up for this. It was my experience that I'm going to share with you. And then the data also back it up, which I took from the QA conference back in April in Indonesia. We had also QA conference online in our community. And of course, it's not only my questions apparently. So, as you can see, less than 1 year that it took from building the AI QA system to the role that no longer being needed. Now, this is not about the company actually, but this is something, the question it raises belongs to every QA in market in Asia, every one of you in this room. With the timeline like this, everything can get really fast, like what we listened to previous session. When you start teaching LLM, it will get better. It will get better. It did get better. For my case, it did get really good. So, we're talking about the AI readiness is not actually a technical problem. We talk about this a lot. I heard a lot about this. The common discussions that happen, it's about tool problem, where we need better AI system. And then we're talking about skills gap. Yeah, QA training needs, AI for their training. We're talking about process questions. How do we add AI to QA workflows? But what we're supposed to ask, it's supposed to be a purpose problem. What is QA for? When tools can do the testing, am I still a QA professional if AI does my work? Or who is responsible for quality when AI generates the test results, our test cases, our acceptance criteria, everything? Are we still QA? Now, how many of you guys see this T-shape? Any one of you know about T-shape? Okay, so I don't see that many hands raising. So T-shape it's been a while, actually, the T-shape model. It teaches us where there's a broad cross-functional skills, and then the vertical is your expertise. Now, we see there's a broad cross-functional skills from development, design, PM, ops, security, while we have the deep QA expertise, the testing, automation, documentation, quality strategies. But what I learned, this T-shape doesn't really solve the problem when AI is started getting to your daily work. This T-shape, there's 3 limits. First is AI took over the deep skills first. Your test cases, documentations, bug reporting, these are core QA skills, which you can train them, like you learned in the previous talk, right? You can train them. It will get better. Now, other roles expanded into QA space, where development teams started doing testing, the UI UX started doing your UAT. By the time QA professional moved sideways, the horizontal ways, there's no space. Now, no guidance was available, so even senior QA leaders, actually, they got cut. Why? They get paid too much. Not as much as developers, of course. Side notes on that. But yeah, the company always think that, let's eliminate the QA managers, head of QA. Why do we need them for? Where most of the work can be done now by using Gen AI. So then, who helped these people, the junior QA, to climb the ladders, or even to learn to learn how to do T-shape? Now, what I learned from the T-shape, then I start thinking, maybe I should start, look at it from different way. Look at it from the judgment-centered one. We need to know the domain. We need to know actually what we are testing, right? So the outer layer, the execution part, Test cases, automation, documentation, bug reports, yeah, forget about it. AI will do it. They will do it. Will do it really good. So let's forget about the outer layer, what you're doing right now. Now, middle layer, the systems thinking, risk modeling, failure patterns, context interpretations. That can be assisted by AI as well. So, QA professionals must own that middle layer. Now, the inner layer, the judgment part, where release decisions, accountability, the safe enough. Now, no tools. I don't think there's any tools, even your automation tools, can say that this is safe enough to be released. This is what QA is for. This is what I see in the future is QA is for. Your understanding about the problem. So the judgment layer is where you say, okay, this is safe enough to release. Only you can actually say that, okay, this is good. The human can say this is good because you have more knowledge than the AI, which probably doesn't have all the knowledge, the updated knowledge that you know. Or, like the very, very crappy documentations out there. So this data that I've got from the Indonesian community, we have about like 9,000 members, but then the conference itself, we just celebrated our 10 years anniversary. This was from the ISCA Conference 2026, where there's around 387 people who took the survey, and 66% of them not using AI consistently. They do using it, but not quite. 2/3 of QA professionals have tried AI, but not using them regularly, and it might change really soon, once they know how to use it properly. Because as you can see, the next one is 92%, they want to have more AI training. So that means if they get more training, then they want to use the AI more. So then, the data is saying that, okay, there's a gap between adoptions and mastery. Now, the veteran QA, the one that has more experience, and the new QA professionals, they pretty much will adopt Gen AI. They're going to be using AI. They're going to be using ChatGPT, Claude. So when they start using the same tools as you guys, with the same knowledge that is already being taught on the platform, then they're going to get probably almost similar if their prompt is good. They're just going to start learning how to do good prompts. So now, experience really no longer predicts who's ready for AI. So how can we, see it from this another example, the sector that is actually the most to lose? It's very interesting when I see the results from the survey as well. Majority are from the financial and banking. So this sector, of course, across Asia, we have financial and banking that is most likely will use AI, but they have a problem here. The problem is compliance and legal. So we do also have clients who start talking about how can we use AI in our everyday work, but we don't have the standards yet. So that's where, Stuart's talk today was very interesting, because this is something that will open up the possibility of financial and banking to start using AI more, because then it might solve their compliance and legal issues. And then next thing is because this is the really, really highest risk sector. Like banking and financial, if it goes wrong, like you cannot take your money just, for something, tap in like the T-money, you tap to take the bus, you cannot use it, then you get a, panic, right? What's going to happen? So that's why it's very high risk. This is just a simple thing where you cannot tap in to get on the bus. But what happens if you see your account number and it's empty? So that's why they're very, very careful in using AI in their everyday things. So this challenge exists in every Asian market. It's not just the Indonesia. Every financial and banking in every country, I'm pretty sure, has regulated financial services. So it's very, very difficult for them to actually adopt AI. So if then there's gonna be a process, standards, where those things are being solved, then AI will also start doing generates the evidence. It will start doing what normal other QA for maybe e-commerce things doing as well. So this is what I learned. When they start asking me about doing a front-end work, that was like the moment that I think, why did I choose QA as my profession? I started doubted that this is something that it might actually really be gone. But then, after that, I started to see, oh, maybe there's another opportunity. So that's where I come up with the judgment thing. There's no other tools that can tell you whether, let's say, this bank account after you test, that is actually good enough to release. There's no AI can do that, saying that this is safe enough to release after you test. Or even the medical thing, the medical tools. There's no AI can tell that there's this medical tools that is actually safe enough, even to just take the blood pressure. So the judgment thing is very important. So we need to survive this by actually owning the judgment, not actually the execution part of it. Because that one, AI and automation, that will really take over the execution of QA. Now, the second thing, the managerial level. It's gonna be very difficult, actually. Even now, start talking about the junior level is gonna disappear. So if there's no junior level, how are you gonna climb up, right? So that's why even the managers started to get eliminated for cost saving. They call it cost saving, right? Or restructuring. But yeah, like, you guys need to start seeing that there's community. Start getting involved in community. Because that's where none of the company will build the community for you. They're just gonna ask you to do the work. If they see that you don't fit anymore, you don't make them any ROI, then you're gone. So, join community, build network, because that is your safety net that none of the employer will provide. The third thing is that my more experienced colleague struggled more, not less. Not that many people actually wants to hire QA managers anymore. If you see, even QA managers, it's very difficult right now. I can speak from Indonesia's point of view. Not only junior QAs actually is being impacted to this. Even QA managers, the leaders, they're struggling. Because experience, they thought that experience is actually protections, but it's not anymore. It's no longer the case. So who can adapt it fastest? Or the one that is actually willing to change, they're the one who most likely will be safe. So learn something new every day. I know AI will help you learn something new. Like now, QA, there's no more thing saying like, I cannot do any automation testing. That's no longer the case. Because you can at least start using any AI tools to at least get you started with automation, to get you to the door first. Start learning automation, for example. So there's no more, like there's no gap here anymore. It's getting to be the case where anyone can start learning if they choose to learn. So this is what is very interesting, because after 14 years of working, and then I see that even the junior QA started to ask questions. How can I start building projects so that I can land a new job? So many people in our community said that, well, you can just start, do cloud code and start pushing codes, your automations, to GitHub. So that's the thing, that if even junior QA or people who actually doesn't have any QA experience started doing automation, then probably they're gonna get one step ahead for the people who just start doing manual testing. But whether they are good or not, whether their test scripts, their automated test scripts are good or not, it's a different story. But at least in the employer's eyes, they're better than the people who just know how to do testing, how to execute testing without automation or without the knowledge of AI. So that's why these three things that really actually opened my eyes after the case that I learned last year. So what Indonesia offers Asia, this is really not a claim that our market represents yours, represents any other market, really. No. We just kind of like showing you what these QA professionals in Indonesia have learned. The question it points to is really not specific. Who owns quality accountability when AI generates the test evidence? Who owns it now? Now, the question has no market specific. It is the questions for every regulated industry in every Asian market with AI adoption. Now, AsiaSTA is the right place to work on it together. And I'm hoping we'll actually just launch TechFox. This is something, the platform that we want to make sure people from around the world can start using it as community-based, talk there, ask questions there, network there. Because, like I said previously, no company will provide you with such things. They will just see you as someone who will do the work, and if you don't produce any more things that is useful to them, you're out. So build the connections. It's very important. So these questions, if I had to answer, what is QA for now? To me, QA is not testing. Testing was the method. So QA is actually accountability. So AI can generate everything now. Test cases, acceptance criteria, automation testing, but it cannot be accountable. So when something fails, you cannot pay something with your credit cards. When you go to the hospital, you got your oxygen checked. It says something wrong, but you didn't know. And then a financial report goes wrong. Who's actually being accounted for that? Who actually owns that judgment? So someone has to have owned the judgment that it was safe to release. No AI tools will help you with that. So that is what QA professionals are for now. In the next 5 years, that's probably going to happen, where the ownership of the judgment that tests are supposed to support, not actually something that, you're doing now as execution thing. So I'm going to close this talk with saying, I built a system that replaced my own role. Then I used what I learned to build something better by sharing it with the people, with all of you, so you can learn something from this. I also shared with the people in my own community. And then I hope you start thinking about this question. What is QA for now? So there is not only Indonesians' questions, but it's also a question for every QA professionals out there. So thank you for listening to my talk.